So what's up, everybody? This is Tanishq Pratap, and welcome to something extraordinary. Today we have guest. She is a software engineer, and she will tell about herself and about her experience.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast. Hi, guys, I'm Isha. I have a tech page too by the name Tech by Isha One. So, for my introduction, I'm a software engineer, mainly having an experience of 1.5 plus years. And starting off my journey, I started my internship with Paytm, and wherein I had my internship for backend developer. Then I got into Canada HSBC, wherein mainly I was working on backend. And then I switched to a small startup, which basically works on AI agents, which is in demand, of course, right now, right? And throughout this journey, I just realized that, a lot of people, a lot of my juniors, a lot of people who know me from school, college days, and through my office as well, they kept asking me for guidance and support. So, considering that idea into a serious note, I did started my tech content page on Instagram and my channel on YouTube. And yeah, that's so far my journey in a gist. So thank you.
The first question is, you started mainly with backend, right? So what pulled you towards full stack and AI?
That is actually a amazing question, and I rather have a really elongated answer for it from my journey. So I did start it from backend, because my internship was as a backend developer, and then my first job, although it was software engineer, but I was mainly working as a backend developer. You know how it is. So I started working with Node, Express, and Firebase, right, as my tech stack. And then later in my journey, I realized being a backend developer is not exactly just about backend. How much involvement does front end, really has in it. So I started understanding front end in my journey, and I started understanding how it's exactly integrating as an entire code. And it's not just back end or it's not just front end, but it's an integration of front end and back end. And I also started to understand how much of an importance on either side of changes make to overall product, so that really pushed me to focus more on React. Although I've also worked on React a lot during my college time. I worked on a lot of projects during college time on React. Then I started working on React. I started seeing components, how do they work, and how is the life cycle, how the hook states, and all this stuff. So that is how my mindset shifted just from backend to full stack. Because first, I feel that you need to change your mindset. That's exactly when you start implementing those stuff, right? Then I just thought that it was time for me to, change my job and maybe challenge myself more. And by the thought of challenging, I mean, you all can really relate when I say that I'm going from an MNC to a startup, which is to a very small startup. It is a big time challenge you can take on yourself. So I thought of, okay, Isha, I mean, you already are working pretty much hours. Why don't you take a bigger challenge and do it? I shifted to that small startup. It was an AI agent based company, fintech company, right? And that was some place where I was taken as a software developer, mainly backend. But you know how small startups are, you really got to do everything. So I eventually started working entirely as a full stack engineer. And since it was an AI agent based company, so I started integrating AI with full stack, where I started learning about how to build rack pipelines, the entire life cycle of rack pipelines. How do you use LangChain? How do you uh, I started exploring different co-pilots, Claude and stuff, and I started to do vibe coding a lot to increase my efficiency. So that is where my mindset shifted, and further on, it got converted into implementation. Now, even when I once I got that job, I did not stop side learning myself. I made a side project based on this itself to learn more about rack pipelines and their structure, because it's a huge process of it and it really needs precision. because AI can always go through hallucinations and it can always give you incorrect answers. So you really need to be accurate with your information. And then you also basically, learn about I also started learning about workflows, how to create AI workflows and all. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's how I got shifted to that.
In the starting industries, for example, most of the people start with SD roles and switch to data
Right.
and other AI roles, right? So in today's day and age, is it important to switch to any AI or database skill due to industry demand, or people can stick to SD roles for a longer time?
That is truly the present demand. I'd say that's the perfect question to ask. So, as per my experience and as per my daily communication with a lot of industry experts, I have figured out that SDE will be an extinct job after a while if you do not really integrate AI into it in some ways possible. Because AI will not exactly replace you, but someone who knows AI will definitely replace you. You must have heard that, and it's
Mm.
actually true. Because people think AI is just recent time thing. No, it's not a recent time thing. People have been doing research papers on it for like what, 40, 50 years now, right? It's just a trend right now, it's just in demand right now. And this demand is not temporary, it's going to enhance, it's going to be exponential in future. And therefore I feel, even as a normal SDE job, if you are right now doing an SDE job, start doing your day to day task. Start automating those tasks one by one. See where your personal issues are. What issues personally do you face while you do your work? And start automating those work. Then I'm very sure you will excel in that. So that's pretty much my observation and my advice for that.
Mostly, a lot of people have said that the people who come from a back-end background instead of a
Yeah.
front-end background have an advantage in learning AI. How true it is?
See, now I really don't believe in such stuff, to be very honest, because that does not really make sense. Maybe that's a saying because back end is a bit more challenging than front end. Maybe that's where they think that back end people are more resilient towards it, so they can easily learn new stuff, right? You know how back end is, you really need to be cautious all the time. But that is not something I'll base the knowledge on, to be very frank. I feel that anybody, even out of coding experience, can totally learn AI. And these days, to be honest, those people are earning way more than people in coding these days, because those guys are working smart. They're just learning AI in the amount they need. They are making startups and they are selling it to people in way more than. So it does not matter even if you're from front end or back end, you just got to start. And the best way to start is look carefully, very keenly, what exactly are you doing day to day, and start figuring it out how AI can actually help you to be more productive and efficient toward it. And maybe the time that you save out of your day, you can put it into learning more about AI.
So, in case of you said that you worked with MNC and a startup,
Yeah,
like both the cases.
right.
So, what was the cultural shock did you get after you joined a startup?
So, it's supposed to say that people do really think, till the time they do not enter such an environment, that MNCs are supposed to have a structural, environment and structural way of working. It is true to some extent, but if you are really working in core teams, I feel the team has to be really dynamic at all times, and you got to work all the times. Especially if you're like a back end person, you really need to be active all the time. But talking about cultural shock is, I used to think that my team in MNC is dynamic because it was the core technical team behind our app and website. But when I transitioned to a startup, that to a small startup with small team, I realized the amount of workload is crazy. It's like out of the world. You really need to like give your 15, 16 hours a day. They really expect you to give that 5 PRs a day sort of thing. And like bigger tasks are given to you, like maybe, okay, let's do this in 1.5 day. And the same thing is supposed to be done in an MNC for like what, 2 weeks. So it's a bit of that way shocking, but then again, it should not be if you're really passionate, because that way it's really amazing learning. If you really put in your, you know, day and night to it, the amount of learning I feel is there in startup can nowhere be taught in MNCs, in no way possible. So even I feel, if I go back in time while I was in college, I was always behind big names. Okay, let's do this and that. But now I just feel that if I see myself and if I have to give myself an advice maybe 6 years back, I'll tell myself, hey, Isha, even if startups are paying you less as an internship, go ahead, take it. Why? Because the learning you'll get there is beyond. Like, it's just, I'm just speechless about the learning, to be honest. I think I've learned more in 1 month than I've learned there in an MNC for around 6 months.
So in case of like startups and the MNCs thing, people say that in MNCs there is not much of accountability, but in startups, since there are very small teams or the team structure is like that, that you have more accountability. How true it is, and how does it affect you as a person?
I totally agree with this. I think this is 110% true, not even 100%. Why? Because then again, the same thing, there is small teams, there are less number of people, responsibility per person is more. So the throughput is more, basically. And what happens is you start owning your work, because in MNCs there are a lot of people, and you tend to get your basic value gets a bit blurred. It starts blurring away, and you don't really understand what exact impact are you making, because there are a lot of seniors, there are a lot of people, who are much more valuable than you, and their words matter more than your ideas and exciting innovations. It actually matters more to you, because they also really need stability. But for startups, it's more about, doing POCs, experimenting all the time, seeing what works the best. It's always like that, especially for a startup which is not exactly at some, very stable stage, is like scaling at another level. If you're that level, maybe like Zomato, that's another thing. But if you're some startup who's just starting up, you've got funding and you're at mid level or something, so there is a very exciting environment there, where you want to pitch in your ideas. Why? Because those values matter, your voice matters a lot there. And it's so when you start feeling that way, that what, my ideas are really making a difference here, they're actually listening to my ideas, and oh yes, I can really do it. So you start taking that accountability for your work by yourself. Nobody has to really push you there, because I've seen in MNCs, your managers tell to you, for your goals, that you need to be accountable. But we all know how many people really, take it seriously. But there is no scope of not taking it seriously, because you have done it, everyone knows it, and you anyway have to be accountable and take the ownership for it. So that's what it is about, basically.
Okay. So in the starting point, like if somebody is starting to apply for the startup, what is the best way to apply? And if somebody is targeting a high paying job in mostly remote sectors, what
Right.
should be the procedure of learning and going for applications?
That is a very nicely articulated question. So I'll just say, these days there's a thing, if you notice, actually startups are paying you more than MNCs if you carefully observe. They are paying you because they know the level of expectations they have out of you if you bring that skill. So, finding a job in startup, one is always through referrals. If you know someone, you can always ask them by sending your resume. Hey, if you have an opening, so they'll definitely consider you if you are up to that mark, and if they really if your skills really align to their job description. Second is, there are few websites, that really help you find amazing high paying jobs. Few of them are, if you've heard, Well Found, that was earlier Angel List. It's a website which is amazing, so you can basically filter out everything by your own, that okay, this is the salary expectation I have, and trust me, in a very good salary expectation you can find work there. Remote, very good for finding remote jobs, but also very good for finding anywhere startup job, in office as well. So well found is the most, it's like number one. Second is also surprisingly LinkedIn. I know a lot of people have a contradicting opinion on it, that I never get results out of LinkedIn, but I think that's just the way you portray yourself and results really come through. I mean, people front-handedly, they've come to me and asked me that, we have an opening and would you be willing to come or something of the sort. So it really helps. But the point where you need to focus on LinkedIn is you really need to, you know, keep sharing what you learn. And also, you need to keep your profile up to date into the trend of what's happening. That will automatically happen if you keep yourself up to date. Your profile will be up to date too. So, yeah.
So, in case of like applications and all, people say that cold emails are a very good way to landing jobs and startups. How true it is, and if it is true, how to find the contacts in the best possible.
I have definitely tried cold emailing a lot, multiple times. Every time I was looking for a job, I've done cold mailing, right? I still did so. Uh, I recently did cold mailing as well. To be very honest, nobody really replies to your cold emails because I mean, just think about it this way. You come to office, the first thing you do is you check your office mails, and you basically skim through your mails like this, that okay, which ones are important. You just have a rough idea which ones are important. You open those and you leave the rest. That's always the case. You're working too, you know how true that is, right? So I'll just say, let me put it in a figure, out of 100 mails you send, you barely get a reply out of one, and out of those 100, probably 10 are spam email addresses. So you can naturally find all those addresses on Reddit. Those are very easily available if you want to research on it. I myself found a very good set of 50 cold emails that I did. But at the end of the day, I did explore the unexplored door, but it didn't really work it out.
So, in case of starting points, what is the best tag that people should get in as a fresher to land a remote job, and what are the best resources to learn?
Frankly speaking, if I have to, tell maybe a third year, fourth year guy of BTech that, hey, if you really want to land a remote job specifically, I think you should not really focus just on front end or back end, but you should definitely go for full stack. Because if you are, first of all, consider this, not a lot of big companies are really giving you, remote work. Like, not all the product based companies are giving you remote work. Like, for example, if you say Amazon is giving you remote work, no, they're not. They're barely giving you remote work, right? So, the type of companies that are giving remote work have very specific demands. And as per my observation and, the trend that I've seen on websites too, while I was still applying and all, I've seen a lot of them really need MERN stack. So a lot of I'm myself working on MERN stack itself, right? And by the way, MERN is Mongo, Node, Express, and React, right? So basically, I would just advise that go for full stack. If you already know front end, it's good. Start learning back end, because anyways they're going to integrate one way or the other, right? So the best is that maybe leave AI out of picture right now if that is already too much for you. Maybe bring AI later on board. So that's pretty much it.
In case of like resources, what are the resources that you recommend to learn?
Uh, I don't preferably would suggest any of the YouTube videos, to be very frank. I personally rely on their documentation for Node, right? For React as well, I do rely on their documentation. if you feel that some particular topic is basically over explained, or you feel that you don't really have that much of time to go through the documentation, because I understand documentation can be a bit boring at times, so you can always go to YouTube and find a random video about what that particular topic is. That won't make a difference, but if you really want to learn to depth and want to get clarified on your concepts, the best way to go is documentation.
What are the mistakes that the fresh developers make that people should not be making and that could cost them a job opportunity or something?
There are two parts to it, right? One will be that while working, I realized later in my journey how important system design is, right? After 7 months, 8 months of working, that's where I realized that I wish I knew system design concepts earlier, because whatever we have been making is basically based on those concepts. So, as a fresher, when you join any company, be it a startup, MNC, or whatsoever that is, the coding that is very different from the coding that is being done in the company, right? uh, you must agree to, right? So what happens is, for you to really clear that gap, you really need to understand how that thing is going on, like how system wise those things are integrating, how system wise those things are making sense, if I must say. So one, definitely start learning even the basic topics of, even if nothing more, but just the basic topics of system design. That is number one. Second is, the mistakes I've seen is, even my colleagues, when they were new, they used to do this. Like, somebody told them to do a certain work, and you're not exactly well known with that particular terminology or something, or maybe that particular task. You've already said yes, but now you basically copying and pasting the exact same code out of Stack Overflow or something, which even I have done. But I still used to, ask for some sort of supervision from my manager that, hey, you know what? I only know this much part out of this. So please guide me to how to exactly complete it, or maybe just guide me from where exactly can I look through and get it done. So instead of directly copy pasting and throwing it towards production or deploying it, it's always better to ask for help. And system design, two things, you'll go.
So in case of like universities, how the university mostly we will take into account the universities that are in India, okay, specifically. So what are the things that universities do not teach that should be taught, and after coming out of university, what people exactly lack, and due to that they don't get a job offer, they don't get some kind of promotion.
See, your promotion does not depend upon your university. Let's start with this, because your promotion totally depends upon your basic first year of experience, how much you've learned in the industry. So it basically loses all the relevance with your university, but it has all the relevance with the industry experience of that 1 year that you had. Saying that, in relevance of university, what things I feel, and I have also seen in a lot of juniors that they also face that issue, is there are very basic terminologies that we guys are basically taught in university, but those are not taught. Those are just told as keywords to us. Like, we know endpoint, but we just know endpoint, like, okay, there is something called endpoint. We don't know what is an endpoint.
Yeah, that's
A
that.
lot of people, I know, they don't know endpoint, okay? Like, you tell them hit the endpoint, they're like, sorry, but what? We don't know about it, okay? So nobody knows about it. A very few people know, who are like overexposed to the technical environment. Only those rare 0.1% of people know, but rest of them, they don't know. So, a very basic terminologies, I think there should be some sort of classes or something, or there should be basic awareness that, guys, these are the basics that corporate expects from you, no matter if you know or you don't know, but they will expect out of you. because that's not depth, that's just really basic. Then so this is one point. Number two is again system design. Although I have seen in recent times a lot of universities are trying to bring in system design as a subject or maybe as an elective to their syllabuses, but then again there's a huge gap. A lot of people misinterpret this as that no, system design is required when you know you have 2 years of experience, you don't really need it before it. Even a lot of my colleagues, they think like that. But trust me, the moment you start learning about system design, you start realizing the stupidest mistakes you've ever made in history due to coding. You will start feeling embarrassed on all the coding that you've done till date once you start learning that. Like for example, I was told to make a uploading picture functionality, right? Like profile picture change thing, right? When we have to upload the picture. I was very new. It was like what, 7 months into the thing. And 6 months I was working on a very different project. So basically 1 month into this new thing, right? Into Stack. And I said, all right, because I have a very good habit of saying, yes, I'll do it. So I said, all right, I'll do it. I did it. Okay. I did my research. What sort of libraries can I use? Falana Dhamkana. And I realized, okay, these are the two options I can go with. One is very, very popular, which is Multer. Another is okay, popular, but yeah, it does exist. And I said, not Multer. Multer does not sound good to me. I'll go with another option. I don't care, right? I'm a fresher. I don't care. Both ways your work is getting done. I did that. It was done. I delivered my work on time and it was working. It was efficient also. What, like 4 seconds, 3 seconds of API that was working. Fine. Pretty much fine. Now, when I started learning system design, there is complete process of upload a URL. Like it's called URL, just URL, because once you're uploading, it goes to the cloud and you're given with a pre-signed URL. That's how it is, if I say in a glimpse. But I realized, wow, Isha, you just did it on your research, but you just didn't realize how much it was going in the back end, how much system was taking for just that particular few seconds of activity to make happen. Like those 3 seconds of API is basically doing so much system wise. So it's very important. Trust me. Does not matter if you have 1 year, 6 months, 1 month experience, zero experience. You still should learn, start learning it in third year, max fourth.
So in case of like freshers, a lot of people want to get into remote jobs before getting into some standard jobs due to a lot of reasons. One is a very obvious, that is higher pay, and the second thing
Yeah.
is that the truth about the market is a lot of people are not able to land those big MNC jobs due to the market problems. So, how do you advise them to make the projects, because they do not have any kind of experience? So their experience is completely zero. All the thing of hiring is currently dependent on their projects and some sort of competitive programming, right? These are the two ways they can get hired in the starting points. So, what do you expect from them? As suppose you are in the hiring position, what do you expect, and
Yeah.
how they should tackle that thing?
So that's a very nice question again, and a very important one too, because not a lot of people really talk about it. To be honest, one thing I've seen is the expectations of companies out of freshers has increased exponentially within these 3-4 years itself. Like the amount of expectations they used to have from maybe 2021 batch versus 2025 or 2026 is insane. The difference is insane, in expectations. At that point, people used to have chatbots in their projects and, whatnot, those very generalized common projects that we hear of all the time. And that was okay because they still had, not because a lot of people didn't even have projects at that time. They used to just get hired by the knowledge they had. But right now, it's not the case. One big mistake I do keep seeing in a lot of resume, a lot of my juniors, they keep sending me their resumes that, hey, Isha, can you maybe just review it and let us know that what changes can we make or how can we optimize. And I see a lot of them have the same projects going on. In every third or fourth resume you see the same projects. There is definitely a chatbot, there is definitely some sort of project which you really keep seeing, and it basically frustrates the person who is doing a 9 to 5 job and then has to also look into a resume that, oh my god, no, they don't have that kind of space to stop and give it a chance, or maybe consider it that, okay, no, what if the person is going through something. They don't give a shit about that, they really don't. Okay, the best part is, I am not against common projects, let me just be very frank, because not everyone is born amazing genius, right? You cannot expect out of the world projects from everyone. But if you do not understand what sort of project you should make, the best thing I can say is, do the common project, take that common project as your project title, but change the technology. Like, for example, let's say recently I was making a project, very common project title. It was a very common project title. Like, again, you can see on many resumes. How I try to make it different is, one, I integrated AI with it. That also helped me learn AI more in depth. Second, I changed the stack altogether. Like, for example, wherever you see chatbots, you always see the same technologies also. Even the technologies used are same. But what if instead of MySQL, now you think, hey, can I also use, Postgres? Maybe I can give it a try to Postgres. I don't really need to learn the entire Postgres to do the project, but maybe what if I can just learn how to do CRUD operations and I'll be good to go, because that's at the end what you want. You need to know CRUD operations and you're good to go. You don't really need to dig in into the technology and go through it. Second, maybe I was like, hey, can I also, I've heard a lot about Fast API. Can I use Fast API? How good is that? What's different in that? I explored through a project. That project was common, but the technologies, the tech stack that I used in that project was not so common. I have not at least seen it on GitHub, those same tech stack. So even if you opt for common project titles, you can always make it different and outstanding by choosing technologies that you don't know a lot about, but are similar to the technologies that you've worked on, right? So that is always the case. I think that way it really works well. And maybe instead of some Udemy courses, you can go for some good NVIDIA or deep learning courses. If in case you're looking for some AI courses, if not AI courses, but then also if you're looking for some other node or something courses, it's always better to go anywhere else except Udemy, because nobody really cares what Udemy courses you've done or not. Trust me.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're saying that the courses that are provided by company are way better than these online education platforms.
As a valuable thing. So at the end of the day, why are we hustling so much to get into a good company? Because of the brand name,
Mm.
because of the work that they do, because of the recognition they have earned over the years, right?
Mm.
So the same thing happens, when you do a certification from that company. It
Mm.
gives you a standing out position. It gives you that, okay, Google is approving the certificate. They are giving the certificate. That means it must be something good. But
Mm.
if the same certificate is given by Udemy, so basically what Udemy, why is not in value? It does make a difference if you learn the skill, right? If you're learning the skill out of anywhere, wo to, even if you do it out of YouTube, it will pay you no matter what. तुम कोर्स भी मत खरीदो, मत डालो सर्टिफिकेशन. If you learn it out of YouTube, you're good to go. I'll say don't buy, don't waste your money. Best advice. But if you really want to add a certification, or maybe you're a certification freak that, no, I do want a certification in my resume, then better is, instead of that 500, go for that 3,000 of certification. It is a difference in money, but not that harsh of a difference that will really bother you. If you're like really studying in a private university, it should not bother you.
Okay. So in case of like AI integration, how should we approach learning AI as a fresher? Because to be honest, most of the colleges, even with their AI degrees, they are not very much well equipped with teaching about AI. They just teach the basic stuff and just move on. And industry expects, I think, something else. So what do you?
Definitely. So, I'll start with one mistake that I've seen with almost everyone around, right? Which is when they start learning AI, they dig a lot deeper into AI. And AI is gigantic. It is literally huge, huge, huge domain. So if you think that you can start with, let's start today with ML and let's start, two types, supervise, unsupervised, yay. And if you start digging onto it, okay, clustered, whatever, whatever, and you're like, this is too much. You start with that, but you lose motivation after like what, 10 days? Because that is going nowhere. In all those concepts, there is nothing of the sort that is actually going to be implemented, right? It's just for your knowledge and deeper knowledge, which can always be gained. So if you really want to get a job, start with ML basic. Start with basics. Don't deep dive into the basics. Start with the basics. Read terminologies around. Connected with deep learning as soon as possible. Maybe give a week, full entire week or 10 days to ML. Jump onto deep learning, go into deep learning, understand how do you make layers into that, how do neurons work, and how does different quantity of neurons make a difference into that. Basically learn about that. Now after that, I would really suggest you to go to agentic AI because it's a level above that. So go to agentic AI, start learning. The base you can learn is terminologies. First of all, what is LangChain, what is LangGraph, what is RAG pipeline, how do we make RAG pipelines? It's an entire process in itself. What is embedding, what is vector search, what are vector databases, what sort of technologies are those. Just learn basics about these things. Maybe learn what they are. That's it. Just know by heart what those technologies are and what those terminologies are, right? Now, after knowing what those terminologies are, maybe start building a project on side. Now start building a project rather, you know, which will be based on RAG pipelines. A very basic project. Start with a very basic project. Start with creating either in see for AI. It's always good when you are doing all of this that you use Python, but you can always make the rest of the functionalities in Node. Like that's how at least I do it. I do the rest of the coding in Node and I do the AI part of coding in Python. And then we can always integrate the layers, right? Back end and front end and AI in the middle. Anyways, so what I'm trying to say is that, start with those basics, ML, deep learning, and then agentic AI. Agentic AI is huge. It is the part where you need to concentrate and dig the deepest out of all these three. There is a level even beyond that, which is multi-agent system, which is really in trend these days. But I think from going to agentic AI to multi-agent system is on another level. You really need to dig a lot deeper into agentic AI before you really step onto that system, because it's like a lot of agentic AIs connected together doing the entire thing by themselves. No need of human at all. So to go on that level, it needs a lot, but just start with a project when you come at agentic AI level and start knowing how to make RAG pipelines, start knowing the basic terminologies, dig deeper into those terminologies, start to know and understand how, okay, first embedding, then chunking and something. Start to think like that system wise, then you'll definitely understand.
So what are the resources that you personally recommend?
So these days itself, I'm actually doing a course on site too. Um and I've also previously done few of the courses which are actually amazing, since I've explored a lot on YouTube and a lot of sites. So I'll just suggest deep learning courses are really good, the one they officially provide, right? Second, Nvidia keeps posting a lot of courses on AI, and all of them are beyond, like literally beyond imagination good courses. It's just that, it's a shame when you open that website of Nvidia and you see those level of courses, because you're like, are they really posting these many courses for free and we are just sitting idle and making an excuse for not learning? It's literally a shame, trust me. I do feel that way all the time. So it's two best websites for learning AI. I think those are these two.
So in case of like AI, how much it is related to software development, and apart from like as you said, system design is very important, right? So in case of AI, how much system design is also required? Because at the end of the day, there is some sort of usage of software development, like frameworks or something that is related to software development. Some knowledge is needed before learning AI, because I think only learning AI won't give you very good of an advantage. Right? Just learning.
Yeah, that
Uh,
makes sense.
how much software development backgrounds or at least learning a person should have before jumping to AI ML?
So basically, if you like, if you're planning to go into this coding jobs or something near to that, because only AI will not basically get you a job. That's true. Only AI can make you excellent, but only if you're, maybe going to be an entrepreneur and maybe start your company and you don't have much knowledge, then you're good to go with that. But if you're looking for a job in industry, so you definitely need software engineering experience or need understanding, good understanding of it. It definitely plays a major role. Why? Because see, where is AI actually being used? AI is working in the form of integration here. These days they are looking for full stack with AI integration. They are not looking just for AI. And even if they are looking for AI engineers, let's say, right, there are also post name as roles as AI engineers. That's not just about, okay, we know AI, we know this. Even if you're making rack pipelines, even if you're doing something else, even if you're making a workflow of agentic AI, then also you need to understand how every step is making a difference in system thinking. How is it, impacting the system? How is it going to impact? How is it impacting the system, so that when it gives an output, how is it going to be seen by the user? Because if you do not understand what impact it is giving on system, you won't be able to give the best output to the user. Because let's say I made something, right? I made a workflow, maybe. Let's say I made a finance workflow of something, yeah, right? And I give it to a company. I said, hey, maybe give it a try for a week. Do your financial processing with this workflow of AI and let me know how it works for you. Now they're like, Isha, every time we upload a bill into this, it takes basically 2 minutes to process that entire thing and make highlight that particular thing that we want. you know we don't really wish like waiting for so long. What is going wrong here? The part which is going wrong is we are not understanding. The code is not written by someone who understands the system. It is written by someone who is making the work done, but is not by someone who is understanding the system. Because if the person understands the system, they also understand why is it making 2 minutes of, why is it taking 2 minutes of time, how much processing inside the system is going that it is actually consuming this level of time. So if you understand that, that's only when you'll be able to give a better output and a better performance and efficiency. So it's pretty much important.
What should be the exact order in which they should learn coding? Okay, exact order from start to finish. Okay, it's not like this from starting to finishing, exact order, so that they can land a comfortable remote job.
So you're talking about landing a job in AI basically, but starting from scratch,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay, makes sense. So, of course, since I just mentioned in previous question that software engineering concepts need to be clear and that level of thinking is really important. So I also feel anyways you have to start with DSA. In these level of interviews, DSA is of lesser percentage when we compare it to SDE, but DSA is still a necessary round to give in these rounds. So it still is in the game, but maybe instead of 3 rounds you'll have one or two. That's it, but it will be there. So start with, of course, DSA. When I talk about, start with data structure wise. If you are in college, then start data structure wise. If you are someone who's already working maybe 1 year 2 year in the bracket of 0 to 3 years of experience, then start by pattern. Then start DSA by pattern wise instead of doing data structure wise. Then once you start understanding DSA well, and you start understanding how things are maybe built, maybe a glimpse of it, you start connecting the dots together of it, then start working on technology. Maybe pick up backend first, right? Try to understand how basically you make different modules in that particular backend technology. Create those modules and only limit it to backend as of now, right? Make the API, but do not work on front end right now. Only make workable APIs. That's the basic you should start with, and that's the least also you should know about how to create different modules and how to make different APIs which are workable. After making those APIs, now you make another folder in the same project that you made backend of. Name it as front end. Start working on front end. Start making different components and start understanding what difference every component makes. Once you make components and all, and once your front end is working, do not aim for making a very beautiful UI. Instead, aim for making a basic functionable workable UI, which helps you comfortably say in an interview or something that, hey, I have created an entire working project, instead of saying that, hey, I just started so advanced that I'm stuck now and I don't know that how exactly can I figure that out. It's not exactly the best case scenario. So instead, make a basic workable front end and a workable back end. And of course, then you integrate both of them and you see how they're working all together, right? One side, maybe you can open your Postman and hit on the APIs. Another side, you can always open on your UI and see how exactly front end is working. So both things, when you see the entire thing side to side, you will be able to understand how the entire thing is working behind. That will also help you get a lot of system thinking, system wide thinking. Now, moving ahead, try to integrate AI into it. Before integrating AI, of course, you need to understand what AI is and how exactly AI can be integrated into this. For that to happen, as I just mentioned, maybe give 2 weeks to ML and deep learning altogether, not more than that, because if you give more than that, you will be stuck there only. You can't move ahead because there is a lot. It is such a big, big, big domain that you will get lost and be directionless. Just give maximum 2 weeks of your time to ML and deep learning and start with how to make rack pipelines. Once you do that, that's like the basic practical thing you can really implement, in your project. Try to think of a way that, maybe a feature or something which you can introduce in that existing project using rack pipelines or something. Maybe make a chatbot in that particular website. Maybe let's say that website of was of something, and maybe make an entirely AI based chatbot onto that particular website using open AI calls or something, whatever AI calls you want to do. So that is the entire way of doing it. And the more you read it, we still are learning. We will keep learning, and we still are learning. So I feel just Doing is the way to understanding how it works.
What is the biggest myth in remote jobs specifically that you have seen?
Biggest myth I've heard and I've seen people assume about remote job is that, oh, you must be traveling a lot since you have a remote job and you have time in your hand. But it's exactly ironic. Why? Because this is a industry level mindset, let me tell you, which is very important for people to know as well looking for remote jobs. When you get a remote job, people think you have lesser work, but company officially has to give you more work than people who are sitting in the office to prove that people who are doing remote jobs are actually working all the time and not just wasting their time. So they actually give you more workload than the people who are really sitting in the office.
What is the thing that you think will give you work-life balance?
I think hybrid is the best answer. Since I've worked all days office and I've also worked entirely remote, I really want to explore hybrid now and I'm working on it.
What is the most underrated dev skill?
Debugging. People think that, okay, debugging, fine, we also know how to see the error, but trust me, when it's really an emergency call, sometimes you just tend to panic and consider it as a debugging thing, that okay, what debugging, just maybe look at logs. But if you really know how to debug properly using VS code, your life is way easier.
So, one last message to the college students or the freshers who are applying for jobs.
So this message is actually for everyone, be it a college student, be it a grad, be it early career aspirants, or even people more experienced than that. One advice I'll genuinely love to give everyone is never compare your journey with anyone, be it anyone, right? Why? If you see people around, okay, he's working in Google, she's working in Amazon, he's working there, he just got called to Silicon Valley, does not matter. Trust me, everyone starts at a different level. Everyone has a very different journey, and you are doing the best you can. I mean, if you're doing the best you can, then you are not behind. You're just on your path and you will reach there no matter what. Nobody can stop you to go there.